If your boss was supportive and your team was perfect and your calendar was clear and all the money that you say you need was in the bank, would you actually live differently, or would you just run out of excuses? When you take away your favorite excuses, what you're left with is the truth about who you're choosing to be. There's a sentence that most of us never say out loud, but that I believe drives a lot of our lives. If everything around me was different, then I'd actually become who I'm supposed to be. If I had their platform, if I had a better boss, if my team was more motivated, if I had more time, or if my schedule wasn't so crazy, if I just had a little more money, a little more clarity, a little more help, then I'd be more disciplined. Then I'd be more focused. Then I'd take the risk, have the hard conversation, invest in people the way I know that I should. We don't say that bluntly, but it's there. It lives under the surface of all our complaints. It's hiding in our group chats. It shows up when we scroll past someone doing the thing or having the thing that we want. And then we think, well, that must be nice. And as long as that if only is there, it does something very subtle. It makes us feel better about staying the same. That's the quiet deal a lot of us have made with our lives. As long as my circumstances are hard, I'm not allowed to change. Or even worse, I can use them to justify my lack of growth. There's a phrase from economics that I want to borrow for this conversation. It's Latin, Ceteris Paribus. It means all other things equal. Economists use it when they're trying to isolate one thing. They would say something like, assume everything else stays the same. What happens if just this one thing changes? I want to use that phrase and that mentality and that idea on your life and on mine. What if, for one moment, we assumed that your favorite excuses were gone? What if your boss was supportive? Your team is bought in completely and fully. Your calendar is somewhat sane. All the money is there. The clarity is there. Ceteris Paribus, all other things equal. The question is, then what? Would you really lead differently? Would you really build different habits? Would you really start that thing you keep talking about? Or would you just find a new reason to stay exactly where you are? Until the discomfort of where you know you could be trumps the comfort of where you've drifted into, nothing will change. That question is uncomfortable because it takes away our hiding places. But it's also hopeful because it means that your life is not fully decided by your conditions. A big part of it is being decided by you. In this episode of the Sisu Lab, I want to walk through 3 of the most common excuses we give ourselves: time, people, and not ready yet. And then ask you one honest question about this week. Just this week. Let's start with the one that we all reach for first. Time. I used to live in a future that kept moving. I told myself that I'd start when things calmed down, when the semester was over, when the kids got into a routine, when I finished the degree, when life gave me a little bit more room to breathe. And then I kept waiting, and life kept filling up. And one day, I realized that the calm that I kept saying I was waiting for was never coming. The life that I kept waiting to start was actually happening without me. If you said, I don't have time in the last 24 hours, or maybe even in the last week, you're in good company, because so have I, and so have so many other people, including those of you listening. And there's some truth to that. Your life is full. Your responsibilities are real. You are not sitting around wondering what to do with all your free hours. But if we're honest, I don't have time often means something a little different. It usually means there isn't enough courage to reprioritize the time you already have. Our brains are naturally wired to protect us from discomfort. They will always nudge us towards what feels urgent, easy, or familiar. So of course, your day fills up with email notifications, with low-stake tasks, and that's your brain actually keeping you safe. But the things that would actually change your life rarely feel urgent, at least in the moment. They feel awkward, they feel vulnerable, they feel slow, and so they get pushed to later, which almost always means never. Ceteris Paribus says, let's pretend your schedule really did open up. The meetings cancel, the inbox goes quiet, and you get 3 free hours tomorrow. Would you honestly use those hours to work on the things that you say matter most? Or would you finally catch up on your shows, scroll a little more, or tidy up some small stuff around the house? Instead of asking, do I have time? Start asking, what am I willing to take time away from so that I can become who I say I want to be? That's a different question, and it's one that only you can answer. There may be seasons where your margin really is close to zero. But if every season is I'm too busy to change, that's not a season. It's a story that you've been telling yourself long enough that you started to believe it. The good news is stories can always be rewritten. I used to need permission. The kind where you scan the room before you step up, where you wait for someone to believe in you first before you decide to believe in yourself. I had people in my life who didn't see it, rooms that weren't ready for what I had, and I let that shrink me. I've learned the version of you the world needs doesn't wait for a sign that it's welcome. It shows up and makes the room ready. The second place our excuses hide is in other people. If my boss was different, if my team cared a little bit more, if my spouse just understood, if my kids were older or younger or even calmer, we give other humans a lot of power over our potential. And again, there's some truth there. Toxic environments are real. Bad bosses are real. Heavy family seasons are also real. People can absolutely make things harder. But sometimes we're not actually waiting on a better boss or a better team. We're waiting on permission to bring our best and blaming them for holding it back. Human beings are social. We look around before we step up. We scan the room and we ask questions like, is anybody else doing this? Does anyone want this from me? Will anyone notice if I bring something extra? So when a boss is disengaged or a team is tired, it's easy to tell yourself, well, if they don't care, why should I? Ceteris Paribus invites a harder look. If your boss suddenly became the leader you've always wanted, I mean the one you've always dreamed of, if your team suddenly became energized, motivated, if your friends and family suddenly got it and cheered you on, would you instantly step into your full courage? Or would you still find reasons to stay quiet, to play small, or to keep the peace? One of the most painful truths in leadership is realizing this. People are absolutely shaping you, but you are also shaping them. And a lot of the time, they are waiting to see if you are serious before they decide to take you seriously. You can't control people, but you can control what version of you shows up around them. And even if they never change, who do you want to be with them? I used to think that there was a version of me on the other side of enough. Enough experience, enough confidence, enough credentials that would finally feel ready. I kept preparing to start instead of starting. And what I've learned, sometimes painfully, is that ready is a lie your fear tells you to keep you comfortable. Everything, and I mean everything, that I'm proud of today was built by a version of me that had no business starting. I started anyway, and it changed everything. The third hiding place is resources and readiness. If I had more money, if I had the right books or the right tools, if I had the right connections, if I had a little more clarity, then I'd start. We dress it up as wisdom. We call it being strategic. But a lot of the time, what we really mean is I don't want to feel small. I don't want to feel like a beginner. I'm not ready sounds humble. For a lot of us, it's just a safer way to say I'm afraid to start small. Perfectionism is usually fear and a nice little outfit. On the surface, it sounds responsible. I just want to get it right. I'm still researching. I'll do it when the timing is better. Underneath, it's often, I don't want people to see me learning. I don't want to look like a beginner. I don't want to find out I'm not as good as I thought. Your brain would rather hold a perfect dream in your head than risk a messy reality in your hands. Because once you start, you lose the fantasy of how easy it could have been. Ceteris Paribus says, imagine you had everything you say you need. The money, the team, the tools, the plan. Would you still feel scared? Of course you would. You just have nicer tools to be scared with. The limiting factor is almost never the camera or the logo or the website, the app. It's your willingness to be seen taking imperfect, honest steps. A simple shift from I can't start until it's big enough to I'm going to honor this by starting small and sticking with it. Most of the people you admire did not start where you see them today. You're seeing chapter 15 of a story they began on page 1 when no one else was watching. You're not behind. You're just at the part where you decide if you're willing to write your own page 1. We've talked about 3 places excuses like to live: time, people, and readiness. Some of it is true. Your life is full. Some of your environments are hard. You may not have everything you wish you had. This isn't about pretending that those realities don't exist. It's about refusing to let them be the entire explanation for your life. Until the discomfort of where you know you could be trumps the comfort you've drifted into, nothing will change. So here's the Ceteris Paribus question for this week. Imagine nothing outside of you changes. Same job, same boss, same team, same family, same bank account, same calendar. All other things equal. What is one decision you know you would make if all of your favorite excuses disappeared? And what would it look like to make that decision anyway? Right here in this imperfect life you actually have. One decision. One person you'll finally call. 1 hour you'll actually protect. One small thing that you'd start. One honest conversation that you'll have. You don't have to announce it to the world. You don't have to post about it. You just have to live it. And if you do that, You won't just feel different listening to episodes like this. Over time, you will be different. That's the whole point. Thank you for listening. And if this episode hits home for you, share it with one person who keeps saying, if only. I don't want you to share it to shame them, but I want you to share it to remind them that they still have more power than they think. I'll see you in the next one.